folks. Welcome back into the High School Huddle. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones. Breaking down everything and all things Section 5 sports for you. Things are heating up as the weather continues to stay cold, but it's been a little bit nice recently. But yeah, we got sectionals coming up for all sports. Things are really ramping up. Carl, how are you doing today?
I'm all good, and as you said, the weather's heating up. I mean, 40
I think
degrees,
it's going to get cold again, though. So it's a brief respite.
It is going to get cold, but I'm going to take 40 degrees this time of year. I'm going to take it and I'm going to embrace it. So I can't complain too much. So I'm good this way.
We got sectionals coming up. We got the Olympics going on. Anybody who knows me or has been following my Twitter feed knows that I am too far obsessed with curling. We got the fantasy curling going. Strong showing from the Swedes, the mixed to get me some points, bronze medal. So we're liking our chances so far. USA women 2-0 so far. So a good start for the ladies there. But yeah, as I said, we have a lot of sectional action coming up. This weekend, we have swimming. We just recently had the diving portion of that. Next weekend, we've got bowling coming up. We've got the indoor track and field. We've got skiing coming up in the middle of next week. We got cheerleading a little bit after that. And last week, we kind of kicked things off with the individual wrestling championships. We already had the dual meet championships about 2 weeks ago. Last weekend was the individual championships for all divisions here in Section 5. Carl, he was at the A1 championships at Webster Thomas High School. And a lot of the big names we were expecting to see perform well, they did really well on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, they showed out, man. I mean, first and foremost, congrats to all those who advanced. And then Pittsburgh for winning the team title. Got to give a shout out to that. But there were three guys that we had in mind coming into that day, Jaden Scott, Rocco Camalachi, and then Nick Sanko. And boy, did they all show out. Starting with Jaden Scott at 145, his fifth sectional title in his career. So that means he got one as an eighth grader. So, I mean, that's when I was in eighth grade, I was weak. So I can't imagine going up against a senior at whatever weight class he was at. So shout out to him for that. He got his he won via decision. Although the score was 3-2, the match itself wasn't nearly as close as what the score indicated. And then right after that, Rocco Camalachi pinned in 20 seconds. I mean, I hadn't seen him previously. I had seen the other two guys, and then I saw that. And everyone around me really wasn't celebrating. It was like, oh, yeah, that's what he does. Oh, okay.
It's like, all right, we got a little bit easier today. We're like, we knew this is what it was going to be, but we didn't know it was going to be like 20 seconds. We didn't know if he was going to hit the under is what everybody was wondering.
Yeah, and I'm like, 20 seconds. Oh, I mean, I've been from Ohio. I've been around wrestling a little bit, but 20 seconds is impressive regardless of like who you're going to go up against. So shout out to him for that. Also, his fifth sectional title in his career. And then right after that was Nick Sanko out of Pittsburgh. Tech Fall. I mean, I think he won 17-1. I mean, it wasn't close at all. It's his third of his career. And as AJ has told me, I mean, he comes from a wrestling family. He's pretty darn good. This is what he does. So all in all, it was a fun hour and a half I was there. The format was a little funky at first. I didn't really know who was going and the pace and this, that, and the third. There was a lot of bloody noses in the smaller divisions as well, which really kind of held things up. But it was fun, and all those who are advancing on the supers, good luck, and I wish you the best.
Yeah, we've got super sectionals coming up on Saturday. That's over at SUNY Brockport. In the other divisions, I think Canisteo Greenwood ran away with it. They've had a strong program this year. And Honeywell Falls Lima, they won their first ever sectional team title in the A2 division. So they've got some talented wrestlers there. We'll see how they square up against the A1 best. But we are looking forward to that. We are looking forward to a bunch of sectional action getting underway coming up soon. Basketball and hockey, not quite here yet. We still got like one more week of the hockey regular season. I think maybe it's a week and change in basketball, but we've got some great teams making some names for themselves right now. Starting off with Carl's team of the week, who has been there just about all season long. And, teams keep dropping around him. Not them.
Nah, we've been giving their girls team a lot of love. I mean, not the girls team specifically, but like their girls basketball team, but their hockey team, which is probably their best program, is legit. Penfield hockey. I mean, they're ranked third in the state. We've been giving Victor a lot of love for the things that they've done, and rightfully so. But Penfield keeps on creeping up the state rankings. And when I did the prep for this show, you start to dive into the stats a little bit, and they're ridiculous. They've had 7 shutouts this year. They have 94 goals on the year, which is the most in Division One, and closest is Portside with 85. They've given up 19 goals all year.
Whew.
Next closest to that is Victor with 33. They have 5 guys with 20 points or more. I mean, this is an explosive team. They're balanced. It isn't like a one man like a one man show or a 2-man band or anything like that. They're electric. They have 2 different goalies who have also pitched a shutout as well. So I mean, this team is clearly legit. They tied with Victor early on in the year. That's where one of the ones come from, and then they lost to Canton. That's their other loss. I think it was 5 before. But outside of that, this team is legit. I mean, AJ saw them last year and what they did, and clearly they picked up right where they left off and continue to even get better. Because I don't know if you can get better than what they are this year. So regardless, shout out to the Patriots hockey team. You guys are legit.
Yeah, and Penfield last year, the Class B champs. They were. We've always had good competition between the Class A teams and the Class B teams. Earlier this year, Thomas, the top seed in B this season, they tied Victor. So it's not like there's a huge difference in talent between the two, certainly. But there's always a question. What's Penfield going to do? How they're going to shake out in Class A? They've passed every test, and one thing that when you mentioned those stats, I wanted to see if something like this would play out, and it is. So Penfield's allowed 19 goals this season. Sean Smith has scored 19 goals this season. He is outpacing every single opposing player that they've played against this season combined. You get those stats, early in a, NBA game. LeBron James has 12 points. The Utah Jazz have 14. It's neck and neck, something like that. Sean Smith's doing that for the entire season.
It's legit. And it was funny is that I've been to a couple of Penfield games this year. I might have one Sean Smith goal, which goes to show you that like this team isn't just him. Like there is a bunch of players on that team who gets the job done. This is an electric team, and as you alluded to earlier, I can't wait to see how they first off finish the season, and then what they can do in sectionals.
Yeah, Owen Fox with 26 assists on the D line. That is by far and away the tops in Section 5, or at least in this one. I've got Division 1, Monroe County. Next best is Ryan Plouffe at 18. So yeah. They're scoring a lot here. Let me get the full section.
Man, Chris Paul, man, out here
Chris Paul from the Blue Line. Yeah. Gavin Schrader has 32. Max McKay has 30 assists, but he is right up there with the best of them, certainly. So Penfield, yeah, we have that Penfield Victor potential sectional championship game. That might be one of the games of the year in all sports at all levels. So we're really looking forward to that. Speaking of games of the year, for the regular season, it might have happened last night at a gym in Victor High School with neither Victor teams playing. It was Avoca Prattsburgh and Lions boys basketball. Class C's best Lions versus Class D's best Avoca Prattsburgh. Both number 1 in the state, both undefeated. And it was my team of the week, Avoca Prattsburgh, coming out on top with the victory. They took it 82-79. This game was a track meet. Like they were going up and down, especially in like the first half, the second quarter. Like anytime Lions would score, literally Avoca Prattsburgh would take the ball out of the bucket, like put one foot down and just chuck it up the other way. Like they were trying to do that as much as possible. I walked past Dan Fates on the way out at 13 Wham. He's like, man, this is a fun game. Like they're playing like this thing's at Leadership Gym, where if anybody's been to Leadership Gym, we've talked about some shoe boxes here in Section 5. That is another one of those shoe boxes where, you can get up and down the court in about 2.5 steps. So that's the type of game it was. It was an electric atmosphere. They played at Victor, kind of a neutral site between the two schools. Also bleachers big enough to fill all the crowds because I have not been to any of those gyms, but I doubt they can handle the crowd that Victor had because that was a big crowd. And it was Avoca Prattsburgh coming out with the win. Top players in that game: Pacey Hopkins with 23 points, 6 assists. Sawyer DeVoe, 20 points. McCoy Putnam, 7 points and 16 assists. He was dishing them out all night long. Evan Campbell hit 2 clutch threes in the fourth quarter. one with about 4 minutes to go. The second was with 2 minutes to go, which was the go-ahead bucket where Avoca Prattsburgh ended up pulling that out one in the end. And that was just a strong basketball game. If they play that game 10 times, they probably win 5 each. Maybe I'd actually give the advantage to Lions. They had a kind of a sloppy game. They committed a lot of turnovers, which is how Avoca Prattsburgh got a lot of their points. By all means, credit to Avoca Prattsburgh, but I think Lions is kind of kicking themselves or how they performed in that one. But Avoca Prattsburgh, they're good. They're not gonna run away with it in Class D. I don't think they do have a strong Wheatland Chi-Li team in D1. They're 14-1. Batavia Notre Dame joining Avoca Prattsburgh in D2. They're at 12-3. But I think it was also just a really good thing to get Avoca Prattsburgh a quality game because they have one game in single digits, a single-digit victory so far this season. That was all the way back in mid-December where they beat Canisteo Greenwood 61-56. And then, a couple of weeks ago, they beat them pretty soundly. So good to get Avoca Prattsburgh a win and good to get a great regular season matchup. You don't always get to see these cross-class battles. We saw it a little bit. What was it? Livonia and HFL football, we had that. So, always nice to see that. But yeah, just a great basketball game last night.
Yeah, and it was interesting that that's the game you went to because all season long we had seen J.C. Walker's ridiculous stat lines that he would put out every single week. But we kind of had to like go to the side a little bit because we didn't have footage of him. And then we ended up going to the game, and I'm sure you saw him do his thing there. But I mean, earlier last week's Huddle podcast, Primetime 585 came on, and Karen talked about Avoca Prattsburgh and how electric they are to watch. And I'm sure that you can probably agree with everything she said and how they play.
Relentless.
So I mean that it's always good to see, especially the smaller schools do their thing and get their shine, and hopefully Lions bounces back and Avoca Prattsburgh continues on their path of demolition.
Yeah, J.C. Walker with 23 points in that game. Jacob Sides was the real story for Lions. 31 points. He was just getting some tough buckets. He had 15 of Lions' 22 points in the fourth quarter. So he was keeping them in that game with a really impressive showing. One thing that did happen, Jalen Battle, he left the game with a left apparent knee injury. Did not look super good. He went up for a block. He landed funny on it. I wouldn't, it did not seem like a super short. It did not look super great. So tough to, see if they can withstand that blow. He's a real athletic defensive presence, but great to see Avoca Prattsburgh get that win. Great to see that game. We'll see what both of those teams do in the playoffs. Speaking of teams that might be making a push in the playoffs, getting hot at the right time, Carl, you're under the radar team, your team that deserves a little bit of pub.
I talked about it earlier. The girls are doing their thing, and the guys are trying to match energy. The Fairport boys basketball team, they've won 5 out of the last 6 after starting the season off. I mean, after starting off at 1.5-6, they're 10-6 now. They caught my eye last week when they took down East, and I was like, hold on, like I didn't know Fairport had this in them, and ever since then they continue to win. It was a 75-72 win over East, who was obviously, as we all know, a pretty darn good basketball team. Right now they're 4th in AA, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but like I know Victor is really good, and they proved it this week with 2 convincing wins over Ron McQuaid and Hilton. But I mean, AA, I mean, who knows, right? Who genuinely knows? I mean, it's going to be it's a make or miss game, obviously, and we'll see what happens in that division. But they've had 5 straight dubs. I mean, they're a balanced team, and based off what they've done the past 5 games, it looks like Zach Deitzel and Alex Hill are 2 guys who probably lead the team in scoring the most. But they also have other impressive wins, like an 11-point win over Brighton, and then also a 3-point win over Schrader. So they obviously have some tough losses as well. They did lose to McQuaid by 16, and then lost to Victor by double digits as well. But I wouldn't sleep on this team. I mean, if they're getting hot at the right time, if they found a lineup or something that's gel with this team, it sounds like you don't want to play this team. And I know that that can be said for a lot of these teams, right? I mean, obviously Hilton and their length is tough, and then Victor with their well-balanced machine, and then Aquinas with their star power. But if Fairport appears as if they have their own little recipe, their own little sauce that is causing teams struggles down the stretch. So we'll see. I mean, I got to give them some pub. I mean, you win 5 straight in AA. that's no small feat.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the parity in Class AA, and Fairport's always been that team that like we haven't been quite sure if we can kind of include that in that conversation. Like they've always been there, they've always been respectable, but now I think we can finally elevate them into that conversation. You talk about some of their players. Pound for pound, they've got the best coach in Section 5 basketball, and Scott Fitch. Works with USA Basketball, deals with the Thomas Bryants and the Isaiah Stewarts of the world. If there's any guy who can put together a game plan to thwart an opposing team's attack, put his team in the right position, you got to go with Scott Fitch. And that just it just goes to show Class A is going to be wild. It's a shame that we couldn't get some series in here. Like I'd like to see like a best 2 out of 3 between all these teams. I think that'd be a heck of a lot of fun. But no, Fairport definitely getting hot at the right time here.
Oh, 100%. And if they play Schrader and Hilton to end the season. If they can find a way to split that or even go 2-0, I think Fairport is going to be a tough out come sectionals.
Yeah, definitely. Now, looking over at my team of the week, I'm going on the girls' side, especially highlighting them because of what they did against Fairport. Churchville-Chili, the Saints girls basketball team. They did not pick up a win against Fairport, but probably one of the most impressive showings of the season, certainly from one of these, underdog teams that we haven't talked about too much on this show. They took Fairport right down to the wire. They had a really tough 48-47 loss that was on Tuesday night. Nevaeh Buntley had to make a game-winning shot. I believe it was about like 3 seconds left. She ended up getting that bucket for the win. But Churchville-Chili, in that game, Sydney Postel had 27 points, 8 boards. She was shouldering the load for that team. And it was the full Fairport squad. It was Nevaeh, Bella, and Ella. So no night off for any of them. Churchville-Chili, previous to that, they really haven't done a ton to, give yourself a ton of confidence. Tough losses to Mendon. They lost to Victor by 10. But they do have some decent wins. Carl, you were actually at this game. It was Brockport, a 50-47 victory. And that was a game where, you look at the records, we kind of both expected Brockport to kind of go through that one, a little Ella Fidel action, but Churchville-Chili, they're a team to watch for sure.
Oh, 100%. I walked in there. It was the first game of the day. I'm like, all right, we're going to get a couple Ella Fidel lights and a Churchville-Chili light and call it a day. And the Ella Fidel light ain't come until later on because Churchville-Chili was going not just at her, but they were going at everyone. I mean, at that point, I was like, this is a one-off, but clearly they're a team that can compete, man. And I gotta give some. I'm happy that you gave them some love because I totally have forgot about how they impressed me 2 weeks ago. Because that I genuinely got back to the station and when I saw the score, I was like, oh no, they're legit. Like they can hoop for real. So shout out to the Saints, man.
Yeah, Sydney Postel averaging 14.7 points per game this season. Their next top scorer, Layla Jackson, with just under 9. And both of those players will be coming back next year. Sydney is an 11th grader. Layla is a 10th grader. So, they might not be able to make a push this year for a super deep playoff run, but you get that experience. The last 3 games of the regular season, they're going to have a Rondequoit, and they're going to have a home and home with Thomas there. So they could easily go into this playoff on a 3-game winning streak, get some momentum. And, we've talked a ton about this parity, in Class A also. Right now, Churchville-Chili is the 11th seed. Brockport's the 5th seed. That could potentially be a first-round matchup. Webster Schrader is the 4th seed. We've seen great things from Schrader so far this season. We've seen some not so great nights from them. They've been a little bit inconsistent this year. And even Sutherland at a 3 seed at 14-3 this season. They've certainly had a really impressive season, but they're not an immovable object by any stretch of the imagination. So, if Churchville-Chili can get hot and build a 3-game winning streak heading into the playoffs, Sydney Postel has a big game in the playoffs. Who knows? Maybe that's what turns out to be our biggest upset of the first round, where, a lot of the times, you've got these 116 games, these, 215 games, these top seeds just kind of cruise through. Churchville-Chili, they could end up being some sort of a Cinderella in that first round.
I'm all for it. I'm all for the chaos. I'm all for it. The Saints, y'all impress me. Keep going, man. I'm all for the chaos, man.
Yeah. Before we get to the playoffs, we got a little bit of regular season action to go. Last week, our round ball roundup canceled with the snow. No games on Friday night. I'm not going to say we were excited about it, but it is nice to get a little bit of a break from the round ball action. We were talking to, we're talking to Primetime. Karen's like, I needed a break. I needed a snow day. I saved myself a couple 100 miles on my car. We saved ourselves a couple overtime hours. So it's not the worst thing in the world to get a snow day off. But this weekend, we do have some great games coming up on Friday. Carl, what is your game of the week?
For me, it's going to be a team we always talk about on here and on Round Ball, but Penfield, they're taking on Hilton for round number 2. This is going to be a rematch as Hilton took them down earlier in the season. And it was something that shocked AJ. AJ was like, wait, what? Like that was a – so that goes to show you. Hopefully
Penfield very much shocked both of us. Let's not just let's just not say that you were right in the yeah.
110%, because I had just seen them against Trader and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then I was like, oh, whoa, okay. But I mean, this clearly they're not no slouches by any means at all. I mean, they're 10-7 on the year with some impressive wins. Penfield's 12-5, and a week and a half ago, we were all like, Penfield isn't looking like Penfield of late. And then since then, they've just gone on a tear, beating all their teams by at least 24 of the last 5 games. So like Penfield, they're clicking. They're back on their mojo. They're back on their things. We'll see if it continues against Hilton. But Hilton, I want to see how Mallory Heiss does, the freshman. She's been doing her thing all year. We'll see how she steps up again in a big-time moment like this with Ella Clark as well. And obviously, Penfield has a who's who of stars over there on their side of the ball. So it'll be a fun game, and we'll see who wins round 2.
Yeah, Penfield trying to gear up before a big AA run, maybe try and take down Bishop Kearney once again this year. My game of the week, I'm going over to the boys' side of things for a great matchup between McQuaid and East. Both teams that have played very well this season, but maybe not up quite to the expectations that, we had for them in the preseason. McQuaid at 10-7 for the season, East at 9-3, but, East is kind of still looking for kind of their statement. Oh, they have beat Edison Tech, so they've got that one. But other than that, they've kind of disappointed a little bit in Section 5 play so far this season. They lost by 9 to McQuaid earlier this season. They just lost to Fairport. They haven't really gotten a ton of these top-level matchups so far this season. The rest of the RCAC is a little bit down this year. Other than Edison Tech, they will get that rematch with Edison Tech coming up next week. That will be on Tuesday at East. So they'll get a good back-to-back heading into the season. They did beat a nice Niagara Falls team and Buffalo Health Sciences recently. So it's not like they're devoid of wins, but I would like to see, East find itself against McQuaid. I was at that first matchup, and McQuaid just, I was there for the first quarter, a little bit into the second. East just was not comfortable. Damani Barley, McQuaid did a good job of shutting him down. East hasn't done a super great job of finding the secondary scoring around Barley so far this season. So I think that's going to be a big reason if they can go on a deep playoff run. I think that'll be a big reason why, if they can get that secondary scoring around him. And then for McQuaid, they've kind of had an up and down season. They recent losses to UPrep and to Victor and to Edison Tech. They're also kind of looking for that big win. They did take down Aquinas early in this season, which is their highlight of the season so far. They will close out the season against Aquinas. So both of these two teams have a good chance for this to springboard them into a potential deep playoff run in this East and McQuaid game.
100%. When you told me that this was your game of the week, that was my first thought. I'm like, two teams that clearly are very talented with high expectations, but maybe it hasn't always played up to that potential. So we'll see who wins this the second matchup. It's going to be box office.
Yeah, East has briefly popped into the state rankings so far this season, but really haven't stuck around too long. Pittsburgh Mendon has been the class of Class A so far this season. Eastridge at 15-2. That's most likely going to be your sectional final in the A2 bracket. Eastridge versus East, always a fun matchup there. So yeah, a lot of things to say about this East and McQuaid game. Both teams kind of looking for a late season statement win. It's been a while since one of them got a Section 5 win that they can, really hang their hats on. Well, we've got a great slate coming up for you tomorrow on Round Ball Roundup. Friday night, whenever time you hear this, maybe this has already happened. So we got some great shows for you coming up. I'm going to try and get some more guests on here to preview the basketball and the hockey playoff runs. Always great when we get some guests on here. It's going to be fun. Carl's first winter playoffs. It's going to be a wild time, and I cannot wait to get back to Blue Cross Arena, which is probably might be my favorite day of the year, the sectional final Saturday, where we're just, it's like a 17-hour day, but it's a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was told this in football season. So clearly this is something that everyone's all looking forward to, and didn't sound fun when I heard about it 3 months ago, but now
last time when I did it the first time around, that was in 2020. I had a bruise on my shoulder from all the camera work, like right on, that bony part of your shoulder where that camera sits. I legitimately had a bruise on my shoulder from how much footage I was shooting. I think I was at like 10 games that day. It's really fun you shoot the second half of a game. You have a laptop with you all day long. You shoot the second half of a game. You get the brick ceremony, you go to your table, you edit, you sit out the first half of the next game, you pick up the game in the second half, you get that one, you edit, you do it again, just constant, nonstop, all day long. My battery was literally running out of power. I had to ration it for that last game. It was UPrep and McQuaid in the sectional championship game. I had to turn it off and on. I had 2 batteries with me the entire day. Both ran dry. Luckily, it did not go to overtime, which it almost did, because I was going to have to sit out that overtime period. But it was a lot of fun that day. We will certainly talk about it coming up. Cannot wait for that after last year where no Blue Cross Arena, neutral. Well, it wasn't actually neutral site games. It was at the home gyms, which is fun in its own right. But we're glad to be back at the big house, as they call it here in Rochester. So we are looking forward to that. We are looking forward to you guys being with us every step of the way. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. You can also catch us, of course, on RochesterFirst.com for the video portion of this show. For Carl Jones, I am AJ Feldman. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next week.